All right, here now with us to talk more about that is the Oklahoma Congressman Frank Lucas, who sits on the House Financial Services Committee. Congressman, good to see you from Capitol Hill this afternoon. Give us the timeline the best you understand it. Edwards said late fall. When can you guys get this thing passed?
Well, that's what the Speaker keeps talking about, but she's been backpedaling now for months and months and months trying to avoid this vote. I think part of the problem is they're afraid in the Democratic majority in the House they'll give President Trump a win. Because remember, when he was campaigning, he said trade deals that the United States had with our neighbors to the north and south, the Europeans, the Japanese, the Chinese, were not fair to Americans, not fair to American workers. And he set about to renegotiate that. The first product is this USMCA, a renegotiated agreement with our neighbors to the north and south. It's ready to go.
Right.
But Nancy says we have to have more, the Speaker says we need more provisions dealing with the environment, dealing with labor. I suspect we pushed the Mexican national government in Mexico City as far as we can push them. This needs to be ratified. It will pass the House if they bring it to the floor.
And that's part of it, is that they've already in Mexico approved this, and was just reported, Canada could move after you guys move. So if you make, what happens if you do make, say, hypothetically, you made some significant changes to this to appease Democrats? What would happen then? I mean, you back to the drawing board on it, with the other countries? Or?
The Mexican Congress will have to reassess the entire situation. The Canadians will have to reassess the entire situation, and we'll delay sales of ag products. And remember, this is not just about Mexico and Canada. Completing USMCA gives us leverage in dealing with the Europeans, gives us leverage in dealing with the Japanese, and ultimately conclude those negotiations. The big challenge is the Chinese.
Of course.
We need all the leverage we can get to make this work. So we've got to do this. Now, from my perspective in Oklahoma, 40% of the hogs we raised went to Mexico before the tariff wars. $40 million worth of wheat we sold to Mexico before the tariff wars. Half the corn consumed in Mexico came from the United States. So this is important to U.S. ag producers.
People only hear, for the most part, headlines about that. Oh, this is the USMCA. It's the quote-unquote new NAFTA. The critics will come out and say, well, it's not that much different than the old NAFTA. What's the point? From where you sit in representing Oklahoma, what's better specifically about this deal? What will be better for your constituents than the old deal?
It addresses not only the dairy provisions, but it addresses lowering tariff rates in general. It addresses a variety of things. Point is, our neighbors north and south are now our biggest trade partners. If we can't come to terms with them, if we can't reopen those markets, how are we going to move trade around the world? The president's right. He's done a good job. We need to vote on this. It will pass the House, but the majority, partially, I think, because they're concerned about giving President Trump a win, and partially because they're trying to appease certain elements within their own caucus who may not have the best interest of the whole country at heart, are slowing this down. Speaker needs to move. How do we move the Speaker? My Democrat friends in the United States House need to lean into the Speaker to bring it to a vote.
The hallway talk, back channel talk about that? Have you had conversation with Democratic colleagues? And if so, can you tell us about them at all?
We've come home from 6 weeks in the countryside, and I assume my colleagues did the same number of town meetings, did the same number of public events I did. The push from the ag areas is do this now. So if the folks will lean into their Democratic members of Congress to lean into the Speaker, the problem's not the Republican side. Yeah, there'll be a few Republicans who vote no, but we'll get a whole bunch of Democrats to vote yes if we're just allowed to vote.
All right.
Speaker, let us vote.
One of the big things to watch as we head into the fall. Congressman, good to see you today. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Okay.